Hi, I am Jeanine Cosgrove-Albert, Vice President with At Your Service Staffing. Very excited to continue our Industry Spotlight series today. Very excited about our guest. It is Ms. Victoria Vega. A little bit about Victoria. She is the Senior Vice President of Operations for Unidine Corporation Specialty Group. Victoria brings over 30 years of food service experience and culinary expertise to her role, with cross-sector responsibilities managing corporate dining, education, government, business, and retirement communities. Wow, Victoria, you keep busy. She oversees more than 65 diverse operations in 15 states. Victoria is well known as an innovative food service leader, passionate about delivering unique dining experiences through guest engagement. As part of her mission to empower and mentor women in food service, in 2018, she co-founded AWARE, a Unidine women's leadership network established to provide advancement for women to achievement, representation, and empowerment. Recognized throughout the industry, Victoria has also been named one of the 50 most influential women in hospitality annually since 2015 by Total Food Service magazine. Thank you, Victoria, for joining us today. We are really excited to have you as part of the series that we're doing. We obviously have a little time on our hands in our industry, so we decided what a great opportunity then to, speak with industry leaders like yourself, during this unique time. But as an industry leader and operator, what are your thoughts on how COVID-19 has affected our industry?
Well, first off, Jeanine, thank you so much for extending an invitation to speak with you and Karen today. It's great to see you guys and have the opportunity to really collectively talk about all of the things that are going on. So I appreciate that greatly. It goes without saying that there is just such a tragic deterioration of our industry. After 30 years, you would think that hospitality is a really recession-proof industry, but, you recover from a financial crisis, you recover and rebuild from terrorist acts, but we've really never had to reimagine what a new normal would look like following a modern healthcare crisis. So, we all talk about the new normal. Our workforce is decimated. When you see those unemployment numbers, it's not that they're all the hospitality workforce, but they are the majority of it, because whether your venue is a commercial restaurant, a hotel, or a performing arts center or cultural center, those new regulations that are still forthcoming and will be tweaked and modified and that we'll all need to respond to, they're just going to forever change the hospitality industry that we know it, not just in workplace locations, but in how we consume and enjoy food based on our beliefs, upbringing, and experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you really don't dissect how much the hospitality industry touches until something like this happens. And you think, what do you mean there's no annual benefit for the local hospital this year? Because you don't connect that, that this event happens to raise funds for something like a hospital, or like you mentioned, performing arts, or even higher education. It's really been far-reaching how this has affected our industry for sure.
And I think we can't be, and I'm sorry, I think we can't be like the jungle with animals, where it's just survival of the fittest either. I think we all need to step back and collectively assist, share knowledge, and really there are a few ways that I think consumer behaviors will change and how we adapt to respond and market and communicate the changes that we're making so that consumers feel safe to come back, not just to the offices where they work or the hospitals where they visit patients, but that people come back with a level of trust in the supply chain of the food and the origin of it. And hopefully we'll talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, speaking upon that though, I mean, can you share a little bit, you know, what life has been like for you and your team since COVID-19 started?
Sure. I think you know, everybody's times at work have really been uprooted and changed. But half of the dynamic of who we all are is that we're resilient because we're service leaders, and we've got a servant heart. So I think the most important piece is that people are paramount. And whether it's our team members, our clients, our residents, our customers, our patients, or our guests, at Unidine, our first focus is on the safety and well-being of our people and our clients' people. So that's really been our primary and initial focus. Our CEO, Richard Schenkel, who created the company 19 years ago, he immediately put together a COVID preparedness task force, which I had the opportunity to be part of. We were in our headquarters in Boston through March until the stay-at-home orders brought me to my residence to work remotely. But one of the things that we've really made sure that's important is that during this time, it's about keeping our team and customers safe. It's protecting our folks and making sure that they are able to get to work, that they feel safe coming to work, and that we're able to, first and foremost, for our clients, those that are open and those that are changing their service models, that we're able to stabilize their dining operations. So that's been a key part. And then, as I said before, with behaviors, encouraging people to eat and spend time with us. You know, that doesn't happen overnight. And I think one of the great things that I've seen during the last 3.5 months is the entrepreneurial spirit of people in the field, and that stick-to-itiveness, that if there's a roadblock, that's a temporary setback, and let's collaborate and figure out how we're going to get around that. And because at Unidine, we've been able to arm our managers not with options and the best practices for how to manage now, but how to manage with every interval of change that will happen. I think people, you know, people who think that we're in the new normal, you're wrong. We're in the new now, and now is not going to be tomorrow, and now's not going to be a year from now either. And it's going to become an iterative process to get to what the future of dining looks like. So we maintain from the beginning a strong adherence to our foundational principles and who we are as an organization, and really looked back to our mission, vision, and values to make sure that those were first and foremost as we move through any disaster recovery. We're a fresh food company, and really making sure that our pledge to our customers and that we do what we say that we do, we deliver on every day, and that we hold our partners and our vendors accountable, because that's our brand and who we are. So after we secured our operations, it's about the basis of what our organization was built on and how we deliver that back to our employees in the field, how then we inform our clients as good partners of the solutions that we're enabling, so that we're really able to make serious and impactful change.
No, I mean, those are all very well thought out, and definitely things, like you said, that we have to look at as we enter, each phase, because there's phase one, there's phase two, so on and so forth. And with those will come different, like you said, different intervals of processes, and how to approach everything. And you had mentioned reaching out, the communication with your managers and your clients. You know, we happen to work with some Unidine locations. We love your team. We have great communication with them all the time. What do you anticipate the needs from vendors, like us to be? I mean, I know we're staffing, but I mean, across the board, I mean, Unidine, again, multifaceted, fresh food, everything that you bring as a service, it's amazing. You touch so many areas in food service and hospitality. So what do you see with vendors coming down the road?
It's a great question. And I mentioned before about the security of the food chain, and that happens on a few different levels. So let's use the word traceability as the buzzword that really surrounds that. So, as safety becomes the underpinning foundation to everything that we'll do moving forward, it's incumbent on all of us to mitigate the risk along the supply chain. And what does that mean, right? So from the traceability perspective, it's the food origins, and it's making sure, and I can tell you for Unidine and for the Compass Group, it's buying from authorized, approved vendors where we have contracts that speak to insurance, that speak to safety protocols, that speak to background checking, and now temperature and wellness checking their team members. It speaks to stringent sanitation controls. Clearly, any food partner that we're bringing in our major provisions from, there is a whole protocol of inspection, of sanitation, of delivery. And that entire methodology now has additional touch points or validations that need to occur. And, the other piece in that traceability component is who's the person that's coming in the door to deliver that. And when you're looking to create a secure environment from a health perspective, that's very different. Have we seen deliveries be dropped on the street and not even in the parking lot or on the acreage of a client location that's open? Of course we have. Do we have single points of entry in our buildings where all personnel, regardless if you're team members of the clients that we serve, or you're a vendor that's coming in to support us or their needs, you're going through the same protocols as if you were a team member? So I think for all of our vendor partners, it's not only making sure that you've got those controls in place, but it's how do you communicate, validate, and show your customers what you're doing so that they have faith in your continued service.
It's important, and we've always found communication to be key. But as you're sharing with the healthcare aspect, there are going to be a lot more touches, a lot more. I do like the word traceability. It's a big word, especially here. I'm in New York, on Long Island. We hear about how important that's going to be moving forward, being able to trace and keep an eye. And it's part of the landscape that is changing our industry for the now. And it is, it's just interesting to see, like some of the things that may have been like a staple for our teams, all of a sudden it's not in place anymore. It's got to be repositioned, or again, another buzzword, there's got to be a pivot. I personally say it's not a pivot, it's more of an adaptation. It's what does need to occur now. Now, is there anything that you're seeing with your team that used to just be so standard, but now you're finding that you do have to adapt to something different?
Well, I
I
think
don't know.
that the biggest is the underlying umbrella of service. You know, we're an industry one where people eat with their eyes, but we're designed to be communal, collaborative. And we support spaces that bring people together. That, you know, that's what an amenity does. It creates that respite during the day from your job or your responsibilities. You know, certainly in the infrastructure of cafes, as we know it, the self-service component, the labor save of salad bars, of in you know, for your team, past hors d'oeuvres, or you know, grazing stations at cocktail events. That's all what we're looking at. We're looking at that salad bar. We're looking at that smorgasbord of food. And then how do you enjoy that? You enjoy that with friends and colleagues when you sit together in collective groups. You know, just the seating area component of a physical space then becomes impactful to the dining experience. So it's really taking a look at all of the components that touch the diner, the customer, the end user, to see, wow, wait a minute. Now we need to not have place settings in a senior living dining room. Well, we've done the distancing and we've got the spatial separations of tables, but we're not doing place settings anymore of the beautiful china and silverware. That these are now roll-ups, or you know, for our residents who are eating in their apartments, homes, and villas. This is all a dining in program that's all on disposable ware or heatable components as well. And with that comes all individual utensils. So, you know, think about a condiment station and all of the things that are displayed for your convenience, whether they're in bulk distribution or portion controlled packaging. Those condiment stations are going to go away, and everything is going to be dispensed from your point of service when you get the food, so that it's one person who is preparing your meal and there aren't multiple touch points. And you know, I think that's just some of the changes of how we see impacting the customer, let alone the changes behind the scenes. You know, the safety and the sanitation component is one piece, but one of the things that's been incredible has seen the visual and virtual enablement that we've been able to empower our team members with. And at Unidine, we provided every location with a Samsung tablet, so that that was preloaded with QA, quality assurance audits, checklists, visual visitation. So you can imagine if you can't travel and get on a plane, the 15 states that I was serving, how do I know what we're doing if we're not visually engaged and going through processes and procedures? It's, as we talked about before, it's about how do we connect with the customer and do things differently. Certainly mobile technology is going to be in huge demand. It was you know, such an innovative component in our delivery model, but now it's going to be about pre-ordering, pickup, not coming down to the cafe, knowing in advance exactly what you want when you want it. And to enable that, you know, technology needs to be our friend and partner to deliver on those expectations.
No, for sure. And as you know, as you're sharing all this with me, I keep thinking about, you know, one of the things you said was, you know, how do we enjoy this time together? You know, prior to this, we get together, we sit down, we gather. You know, and I definitely see it as a negative that, you know, we can't currently do that, but it's all for the right reasons. Um, so one thing I do want to ask you is, what do you see as a positive coming out of this? You know, because like I said, we are such a social industry. You know, what do you see that's a positive?
Well, I think it starts with what I kicked off by saying what you know, resilient servant leaders we are, and resilience is key. You know, it's preparing for the new now, and then it's preparing for the next new, and that will continue. So to be able to embrace that moving forward, you know, the second piece that you need to be on top of resilient is flexible. You have to be able to mobilize, execute quickly. That's the beauty of working for a small company that was established by a single founder, is that, to use your word, we're able to pivot quickly. And we've gone to market under the auspices that one size doesn't fit one for our client partners. So we're an organization that's founded on customization. And I think some folks are going to be challenged in that arena that have a more standardized, centralized corporate approach to how they approach the entire country or their business sectors or units. You know, certainly we touched on remote enablement and how that will continue. But you know, some of the other pieces that we'll start to see is hand in hand with safety and sanitation usually comes wellness, and that will become even more important. We're hearing all about now eating for immunity, nutrient properties to fight disease and a pandemic like this, because clearly the folks that have been compromised, the majority are our elders who have reduced intake to begin with. So nutrition, health, and wellness will continue to be a key driver. You know, care of our team members, care of our customers, and taking care to communicate what we are doing for their safety, not just as a customer, but as an employee who's working for us. And then, you know, as we touched on, you know, we're an organization that's based on space, and space is going to become the new conversation, because some of these footprints literally will reduce, not just in our cafes, but in the real estate our clients take, because as everybody starts to embrace more work from home, that's when we're really going to continue to see lower available populations, not just in workplace and on-site locations, but in our hospitals as well. So I think that's something to be mindful of as we look to the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you're touching upon so many things that we are looking at, and again, it is really great to hear the progressiveness of Unidine with the Samsung tablet for that communication and for those checks, especially since, you know, like you said, you're used to, you know, to traveling in 15 states. You know, it's great, and then the care to give to the clients. It's really beyond. It's almost, I feel, kind of like a touchback. I feel like we were in such a mode of, you know, getting things done, and, you know, and it was the pandemic, I think, that made us stop for a second, and we realized, like, wow, you know, there are ways we can do things differently and promote a different level of care, whether it be how we're doing, you know, delivered room service, you know, or meals to the elderly population, or, you know, how we're keeping in contact with our customers. I really feel it gave us a little bit of a pause to say, like, you know, how can we do this differently and get back to that care?
And you bring up a great point, because what you really said is, everybody had to stop doing business as usual, right? And really had to take a step back and look at what's important, look at who our contributors are, and how is this impacting people. And I would be remiss, as the co-chair of AWARE, the diversity program at Unidine, if I did not share that one of the things that we did in the beginning of April was a webinar for all of our team members about the emotional impact of COVID-19. And that's a piece in the business sense that we don't all talk about. And, and while everybody tries to put on a brave face, everyone is processing this differently. Everybody has friends and family that have been impacted. Everybody has relatives and hopefully parents that they want to see that they haven't seen because of this. People have, it's just so unconscionable that to take your last breath and to say goodbye to your family on Facebook or on FaceTime. I'm sorry, when people can't be there. So it's really about processing that, and I think that leads me to one of my other points of something that, especially coming out of all of the discord as we've moved from pandemic to social chaos, if I didn't touch on our responsibility as inclusive leaders now more than ever with the disruption that's happening with social events, that we really need to make sure that we're providing non-discriminatory access and actions, not just commitments that we're talking to, but real actions that value diversity. One of the things that has been critical to me across the enterprise the last 4 months is that with the increased telework and the remote conferences, the meeting that we were all looking forward to getting together in April, being remotely where there is no interaction as you're watching presenters, it's very easy to marginalize those who are unable, unsure, or insecure about having their voice heard. And as leaders, and you don't have to be a leader of an organization, you can be a leader of a conference call. If you're leading a meeting, you've got a new responsibility, and I call it the air traffic controller on these virtual calls, that you've got a responsibility to control the dialogue to make sure everybody gets a chance to speak. That if you've got a team on a call, on a WebEx, on a Zoom meeting, that when you're polling for group participation, in a cloud-based environment, we need to be emotionally intelligent. We need to make sure that all team members are staying strategically visible. And then people aren't marginalized. They don't disappear on the sidelines, and they don't feel that their voice hasn't been heard. And not everybody has the strength to get up on somebody's shoulders to have their voice heard. And as a leader in any level, on any call, any meeting, any initiative, that's really what's so critical, so that everybody is included and valued.
No, that's an excellent point, Victoria. I know personally my involvement with certain committees and within our industry, that what you just spoke to, just like it touched me, because it's beyond, it's really true. And as we start to have more conversations and as we continue, these meetings, I agree with you that now more than ever, it's important to make sure all of our voices are being heard, and that we are also checking in with one another, to make sure that we're okay. It's so basic. It just sounds so basic, but like I said, you go back, to December, in our industry, and it is really a crazy, sorry about that. It is really a crazy situation that we have gone from so just business as usual. And now, you know, when I start a conversation with someone, it's how are you doing? And someone just says, well, I'm okay. And I'm like, no, how are you really doing? You know, like that's really where we come. But I also think that that's part of our industry and why we've gone down this career path. That's part of who we are. You mentioned that the servant heart, and at your service, you know, we call it the service heart. You know, it's definitely part of who we are. And it's been interesting to see how we go back to these things that are so important, and that it unfortunately is so easy when things are so busy to exclude those or to forget about it. But I really, you know, I really appreciate that you brought that aspect up. Going through everything that is going on in our world right now, it is so important for us to stay in touch and to make sure that we're keeping everyone's voices heard, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we've touched upon so many things today in this time, and I can't thank you enough. But I do have to ask you personally, how are you doing with everything that's going on, Victoria? You know, we jump right into questions and industry because, you know, I know that that's the type of, you know, women we are. We really, you know, we get down and into it. But, you know, seriously.
Busy people are always busier, right, Jeanine?
Well, exactly. Even when it's not busy, if that makes any sense. but seriously, how are you doing? How has your quarantine been?
You know, it's been interesting. I'm happy that I'm not traveling at the pace and frequency that I was. I did move just as this was all happening at the beginning of March when I was on vacation, and that's to come back like really quickly to all of this. So that was a little bit to, you know, get used to. But you know, I think for my I would answer your question in like advice for others, is that don't lose sight of what you're passionate about, because the circumstances around you may change, but your core doesn't. And you know, sometimes it's really, you know, it sounds cliche that it's not about one door closing and another one opening. It's really more about looking within yourself to reinvent and to contribute where the greatest need is. And you know, I think as we look at our reopening approaches, right, we're only going to be talking about that for so long, and that we always have to be looking to the next, so that that we're not only reimagining what being reunited looks like, but we're refining, we're reorganizing, and that reopening looks like what the regulatory compulsory components say that it needs to be, with the brand element of the clients that we serve, and the commitments and the promise that Unidine brings. So for me, it's been really focusing and looking at that. As I said, I was at our COVID task force headquarters in Boston through the end of March. I was fortunate enough to go back into the office. There were 7 of us because you were able to have less than 10. So our CEO, Richard Schenkel, brought in key members of the executive team, and we've been in the Boston office. So from a collaboration standpoint, when you're not as structured as visual calls, it's great to make decisions and have that same ability as a group. So it felt good. in personal disclosure, it's always hard for me to work from home and be that person who puts on the suit and really goes to work. So I needed to go to work, and even though we did go to work, I needed to physically surround myself with that to ground and center the best contributions I could make.
Yeah, for sure. No, and that's it. And I do. I think that this might be a good place for us to close. Refocusing, reimagining, keeping together the best we can during these uncertain times. I feel like you've definitely left us with, where you are personally, and where Unidine is, and where Unidine is going. So I thank you for your time today, Victoria.
Thank you, and stay strong.
Yes, you as well. You as well. And we will definitely, hopefully, we'll be able to get the chance to see each other soon in person. Thanks again.
Look forward to it. But thank you for everything that you're doing so that you're helping and support not just your organization, but your peers and the greater people that I know you enjoy serving. So I hope you're doing well. And we thank you, Jeanine.
Oh, thank you, Victoria. And you have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Take good care. Bye-bye.